So we're here at the start of Mental Health Awareness Week, and I'm talking to Kath from the Headlight Project. So, Kath, tell me a bit about the Headlight Project. What does it do?
So the Headlight Project was set up as a charity following the death of my husband Russ, who died by suicide in May 2018. And the aim of the charity is to hopefully reduce the number of suicides in our area. And the Headlight Project does this by working with families and individuals who've been affected by traumatic bereavement, particularly suicide, as they tend to be more at risk following the death of a loved one. Secondly, we go into schools and work with children to teach them about mental health and the importance about talking about grief and loss. And thirdly, we work with organisations in the hope that we can empower our communities to have those conversations by providing suicide prevention training.
Wow, that's a really worthwhile thing to be doing. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is one of the themes for Mental Health Week is loneliness. How does that manifest in the things that you do?
Gosh, I think loneliness is huge. Certainly when somebody's been bereaved, that loneliness as a result of their grief can be immense and it can be overwhelming. And the whole point of the Headlight Project was to try and bring people together who'd lost somebody in those circumstances, because that can feel very isolating as well. But I think also the Headlight Project has become slightly more well known, and I think what's difficult to know is whether that's because the charity's more prevalent and people know about it now, or whether there's been an impact as a result of the pandemic. And I think loneliness was something that was highlighted hugely during those 2 years and the various lockdowns that we had, and how really people's support network and their day-to-day routines were disrupted, and also, you know, their relationships. So I think loneliness is it's something that we do need to talk about, and I think everybody at some point in their lives, adults and children, can feel lonely.
If we're ever in any doubt, if anybody's ever in any doubt about somebody, what's the best line of approach?
Yeah, I think it's about speaking to them. It's approaching that person and really having that, posing that question to them. You know, are you struggling? What are you struggling with? Have you had intrusive thoughts? Are you thinking about killing yourself? And sometimes when people are feeling suicidal, they will have had that thought process, and then they may have come up with some sort of plan. So it's imperative that you know, if somebody senses that person is in that place, that they get help, whether that be to speak to a doctor, to take that person to accident and emergency, or to ring a crisis service, which there is in any local area.
And that would apply whether it was an employer, employee, or a family member, or a friend.
Absolutely.
Just ask the question.
Absolutely. And sometimes, you know, if a family member you're so close to, that those questions can be difficult. Often somebody might not vocalise because they're trying to protect their family. And so workplaces are often another good environment where you may well notice that somebody's behaviour is slightly different. They're withdrawn, they're tired, they're not eating, or their absence, you know, it's telling by the level of absence. So yes, and that's one of the things that all of us can learn from, I think, in terms of empowering our communities to have those conversations, and not just relying on the statutory services that are here.
And that person might be referred to the Headlight Project via the GP.
Yes, we basically get referrals, self-referrals, referrals from family or friends, referrals from schools, obviously, where children are concerned, and then more notably recently there's been GPs referring into the service.
So I'm particularly keen on, I think a good leader looks after his or her people, and a good leader, I would hope, notices when people are maybe when their behaviour changes. What are some of the things that leaders can do to try and help make their workplace more better for people's mental health?
I think that we all spend a lot of time at work, so you know, your work colleagues and business leaders are often the people that you have most contact with during the week. And I think to make a working environment safe in terms of you know, promoting better mental health is really about being able to have that communication with your employees, just making that bit of time for them, or having the facility so that other employees can get together and talk, so that those signs can be noticed. Also, I think that when we talk about empowering our communities, I would urge business leaders to think about having specific training for mental health, first aid and suicide prevention, because ultimately what we look at to promote good mental health is avoiding deaths from, you know, not looking after our mental health. So I think training for workforces is a great idea, and it's well worth investing in for designated people so that they have the skills to recognise the signs. And
can the Headlight Project help with that?
Yes, absolutely. We've two of our staff are now trained in the worldwide Assist Suicide Prevention programme, and we're hoping to go into businesses in the local area if they would want to participate in that training. And
train one or two individuals in each particular business?
Train groups, that's right. We can do from between 10 up to 24 in any session, and it's a 2-day course, and it's well worth doing. I think it's something that is proactive and will give our employees, business workplace employees, the ability to spot the signs and to do our bit in terms of promoting good mental health.
So for the investment of a couple of days' time, we could have 1 or 2 people trained up to spot the signs and know what to do about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's got to help in your ambitions, hasn't it?
It's hopefully, yes. With any luck, we can start to fight those figures that really make our area one of the worst for those suicide rates.
And is it one of the worst?
It is unfortunately, and I don't think this area, you know, the Teesside isn't any different from other places in the whole of the UK, but we do seem to have a higher rate, and whether that's because of the statutory provision is overwhelmed and underfunded, you know, it's got to have something to do with that, I think, because our demographics, you know, are not that much different to some other areas where those figures aren't as high as us.
Well, if we can start to move the needle on those numbers, that's a hugely important thing to do. And if I know you, you're going to do that.
I'll give it my best shot.
No doubt about that. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Ian.